There, and as I mentioned, we will be live in Moscow shortly. Steve Rosenberg will join us with more on President Putin's address to the security services that happened there just a few hours ago. But let's take you to the US, where an audio recording has emerged of Donald Trump allegedly handling papers and saying they were highly classified during a post-presidential interview. During an interview with an author working on a memoir of his former chief of staff, Mark Meadows, Mr. Trump is heard going through these papers and saying, "This is highly confidential." Earlier this month, he appeared at a federal court in Miami, charged with 37 counts of illegally retaining classified documents and obstructing the government's efforts to get them back. He has denied the charges. Let's take a listen to this audio recording obtained by CNN.
Isn't that incredible?
Yeah.
I was just thinking as we were talking about it. And, he said he wanted to attack Iran and what? These are the papers. This was done by the military, given to me. I think we can probably, right?
We'll have to see. Yeah, we'll try to
Declassify
figure out
it.
yeah.
See, as president, I could have declassified it. Now I can't, but this is classified.
Now we have a problem.
Isn't that interesting?
CBS News correspondent Jared Hill gave us more details of what was actually said, because sometimes it's a little unclear when you listen to that recording and who was in the room at the time.
One aside, there is not much more of this recording that at least CBS News is getting a hold of yet. It's just about 2 or so minutes long, and in it you can hear former President Trump discussing what he calls some documents, some sort of papers that he says are confidential, that are secret information, that he could have classified, he says, when he was in the White House, but does not have the authority to do so now that he is not president. This comes from a conversation that he was having in 2021 with a couple of people at his golf course in New Jersey, Bedminster, New Jersey. Now, with all of this, again, going back to what we're seeing in this indictment in the case against him, there is a big question around what exactly the papers are that you hear rustling. If those papers, those documents are in fact the classified material that he is said to be, or at least have been in possession of, or if these are just other papers and he's talking generally about the information.
So just to be clear, Jared, this could be the same recording that prosecutors have used in their indictment of Mr. Trump.
Yeah, so it's believed that this likely is looking at the information in the indictment and what we're hearing in this audio, although the special counsel, the DOJ, has not yet commented on the release of this audio.
What has Mr. Trump had to say about this?
So he's put out a couple of truths on his social media platform about this one. Last night, one of them saying that the special counsel and the DOJ illegally leaked, as he says, the audio with this one, saying that this is an effort essentially to defame him, and that he did not do anything wrong. Again, this morning he also says, he's reiterating essentially that he didn't do anything wrong here. But again, there is that real question between whether he is admitting in this tape, in this audio, that he understood that he could have declassified these documents, this information, when he was in the White House and not after the fact, which has been an argument from him and his team all along.
And just briefly, Jared, what's happening now in terms of the trial?
Yeah, so the trial, as of now at least, is scheduled to start in August, mid-August, but just on Friday, the Department of Justice requested that be pushed back until December so that Trump's legal team has the time to get security clearances to deal with these classified documents, these classified information. The judge is set to make a decision on that one, but we have not gotten a decision yet. So again, as of now at least, this is set to start in August.
Now, Captagon is a highly addictive drug that has brought misery to many people across the Middle East. A joint investigation by BBC News Arabic with investigative journalism network OCCRP has revealed new direct links between this multi-billion-dollar drug trade and leading members of the Syrian armed forces. Leonardo reports.
On Jordan's border with Syria, its army is fighting traffickers of a drug called Captagon.
They are smugglers. Our ground forces were informed and were ready for them. They fired directly at them, forcing them to retreat. They were crawling for their lives.
Captagon is little known outside the Middle East, where this highly addictive, highly accessible, amphetamine-like pill is wreaking havoc. The Syrian regime has been accused of making vast profits from the manufacture and export of this drug. Now, BBC News Arabic has uncovered fresh evidence about exactly how this trade is being managed by members of the Syrian elite. In Suwaida, close to Syria's border with Jordan, Raji Falhout led a militia aligned with the government of Bashar al-Assad. In July 2022, Falhout's bases were overrun by a rival militia. They found this machine that could be used for pressing Captagon, bags of pills, his military ID, and an unlocked phone. Gaining exclusive access to the phone, we found a series of messages describing the purchase of the machine.
What do you think, brother? Are you sure that the Hammer can accommodate the machine? Yes.
But this drug trade is much larger than one man. In 2021, a trial began in Lebanon against a well-known businessman called Hassan Dakou. He was found guilty of Captagon trafficking after a shipment was seized in Malaysia worth over $1 billion. The case was heard behind closed doors, and we met with the judge to find out what was uncovered.
He said he was collaborating with the 4th Division.
Did he give any evidence of his connection to the 4th Division?
An ID card issued by the 4th Division.
The 4th Division is an elite unit of the Syrian army. It's led by President Bashar al-Assad's brother, Meher. The judge concluded that there was no evidence of links between Syrian officials to Dakou's trafficking. But in a 600-page confidential court document, we found a series of WhatsApp messages Dakou sent to someone he called the boss, whose phone number mostly consists of the same digit repeated many times. It's known as a golden number.
This number was obtained from the company in the very first days and belongs to an important person in the authority.
We've traced the number. High-level Syrian sources have told us it belongs to Major General Ghassan Bilal. Bilal is Meher al-Assad's number 2 in the 4th Division and is understood to run its powerful security bureau.
Could you kindly renew the ID cards for the guys I sent you?
If the boss really is Ghassan Bilal, the conversation suggests that one of Syria's most senior officers is linked to the illegal Captagon trade, worth billions of dollars. The Syrian government, Ghassan Bilal and Raji Falhout didn't respond to our questions. Hassan Dakou maintained that he's innocent and was working with authorities to prevent drug trafficking. Only last month, the Arab League welcomed Bashar al-Assad back to the fold. As Arab governments struggle to contain an epidemic of drug abuse, elites within Syria continue to profit.
And Leonardo reporting there. Around the world and across the UK, this is BBC News.
BBC News bringing you different stories from across the UK.
It's time for Head Ranger Matt's daily rounds, checking on fallow and red deer so adored by visitors to Bradgate Park. But despite pleas for people to keep their distance from the wild animals, Matt says that's being ignored.
I've had a couple of groups of people that have got too close, they've let dogs lick it, they've been touching it, subsequently they've put their own scent on it and the mother's rejected it. We've got signage on every gate, multiple signs, and we get to involve with it and that's the result.
This mother and 3 young are roaming in the deer sanctuary, around 150 acres of parkland which is closed to the public. But many of the animals do stay within visitor areas.
You see a deer and it appears to be abandoned on its own, it's a young deer, it isn't. Just leave it alone.
For more stories from across the UK, head to the BBC News website.
Good to have you with us on BBC News. Let's bring you right up to date with what has been happening in Russia, Moscow particularly. We've seen President Putin appear at the Kremlin this morning. He was thanking troops from the Army, Interior Ministry, FSB and National Guard, saying they had stopped a civil war in Russia. But then after that, we got these pictures. Now, they're not live. They've just been fed to us in the past few minutes or so. You can see President Putin addressing a number of people in a rather ornate room, saying that the Wagner Group was entirely supported by the state. He said with 86 billion rubles, and Russia's enemies would have taken advantage of the situation if the mutiny had succeeded, that many of the achievements of recent years would have been lost. And Mr. Prigozhin earned billions of rubles and that they will now investigate how money paid to the Wagner Group and its boss respect. So those are lines just coming to us in the past few minutes or so. Let's take you to our Russia editor, Steve Rosenberg, who joins us now from Moscow. Firstly, to his appearance this morning, Steve, we saw him walking down the steps. That huge fanfare was played as he made his way down those red carpeted steps and thanked the troops and the security services. And now we've just had this, what appears to be some kind of statement made by President Putin. This really does seem like an attempt by him to reclaim the narrative.
Yeah, I think we saw, first of all, the pomp and ceremony that we saw in the Kremlin. And this is pomp with a purpose, right? Because the whole Wagner rebellion, the mutiny, has been a big challenge to Vladimir Putin's authority. So what we saw this morning, I think, was an attempt to change the optics in a way.